Okay. The great ideals of the West, rationalism, self-criticism, the disinterested search for truth, the separation of church and state, the rule of...
In the West, in the past, your forebears. It was only we when it's us doing bad things. When is it we expressed by Mr. Dalrymple of pride of what the West has done? That he cannot bring himself to do, and I hope you note it, ladies and gentlemen. This is masochism, and it's being offered to you by a sadist.
When Tariq Ramadan accepted the invitation to this debate, he never saw himself face to face with the most difficult question in the room. How do you argue for universal values without sounding like you're arguing for your own tribe's supremacy? Watch how brutally Douglas dishevels his entire charisma in real time, right before an unforgiving London audience.
Dialogue, a critical, deep dialogue, but based on a comprehensive approach. Ideals with ideals, realities with realities, because it's very easy for me to go to any Muslim countries and to show them how the Western values are misused and instrumentalized by the Western countries, killing people. And today, 53% of the Americans saying torture could be understandable. Which kind of world are we promoting if these are the superiority of our values? 53% of the Americans. So I can say, look, if this is the reality, there is no superiority in this. The last point here, for me, it's also the duty of consistency. At the end of the day, the only thing which is important for me is not to come with the superiority of the Islamic values against the superiority of the Western values. The real debate here is to be consistent. Yes, we have shared common universal values. The point is today that we are all betraying our countries, our governments, and ourselves betraying these values in our daily life. And the only point is to promote something which is not to claim the superiority of our values, but a consistency towards these values and to be able to be self-critical. So the point is be self-critical with the Western values and be self-critical with the Islamic values in the way they are implemented, in the way they are betrayed.
Tariq's move here is genuinely clever, or so he thinks. What he does here is flip the entire premise on its head and argue instead that asserting superiority isn't confidence, but fear dressed up as conviction. That's not a bad point on its own merits. But watch how quickly it curdles into something less generous. Suddenly anyone worried about immigration is just scared. Anyone defending Enlightenment values is hoarding intellectual property that supposedly belongs to everyone. He name-drops Al-Ghazali as proof the West didn't invent doubt. And sure, fair enough historically. But citing a medieval theologian's skepticism doesn't quite settle whether a modern legal system built on secular rule of law owes its architecture equally to every tradition on earth.
Very much indeed, Professor Ramadan. And now our final two speakers from the panel. First of all, Douglas Murray.
Thank you. I should assume some of that applause was for me as I got up. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Ibn Warraq has pretty much laid it out already. As far as I can see, he's said everything that I would have wanted to say about Western values, what they are. He's defined them. There isn't, I believe, much challenge from the panel so far, or I suspect from the room, about those values. The only thing I can see that might hold up some people in the audience from voting on the right side tonight, if I may. Certain of the words in the motion, we say that we shouldn't be reluctant. We should be to assert the superiority of our values. Superiority is, I think, the troubling word we've all got here, and a couple of my predecessors have already mentioned this.
And it gets better when Douglas takes the stand. Watch how carefully he's going to dismantle all the premises Tariq just set up. Douglas doesn't even wait for the applause to settle before going straight for the personal. As a gay man, name me one Islamist state you could actually live in. That's not rhetorical theatre. That's the whole debate collapsing into something you can't argue around with footnotes.
You don't have to go very far in Britain, or the West in general at the moment, to find people's unwillingness to assert the superiority of their values. but they know the superiority of their values because they live with the superiority of their values. I talk at a lot of campuses, and I was at one last night in London where a student got up and started protesting because I had said that an Islamist government was of itself a bad thing, which I think it is. I just said to this student, and it's not a hard question you'd have thought to ask, I just said, well, name me one Islamist government state that you would want to live in. And this is a serious question, ladies and gentlemen. It is also a personal question, and one which, if people were honest, they would admit is personal. As a gay man, there's not a country that's run by Muslims which I could live in. One of my best friends is in hiding again tonight, Dayan Hassi Ali, because of what she says, and she'd be killed if she went to any Muslim country. And I think that matters. And I think the way in which this affects our personal lives...
He invokes Dayan Hassi Ali's situation here, and it lands harder than any statistic could, because it's not abstract. It's someone's actual life on the line. The Lindy England distinction is genuinely the sharpest moment of the whole speech. She went to prison. The West prosecuted its own failure publicly, in the open. Try finding that same self-correcting mechanism anywhere in Tehran's judiciary.
Tariq Ramadan, there was a direct question to you. What is the humble position on women's rights?
Yes. First, I didn't say that. I said that if we want a deep dialogue and to understand in which way we can build together, 3 conditions, and humility is one of them. When it comes to women's rights, my position is quite clear, and it's here. I don't know if you want to follow what I'm saying or you are following, but you are changing the ground just to make a point where you don't know how to react on the first point of the moratorium. On the women's rights, there is no discussion. There are values and equality, and that we have to work for this. From within the Islamic world, within the Muslim communities, for years and years, I have been promoting this and say that we have to struggle against discriminations, coming from 2 main fields. The first one is a cultural reading of the scriptural sources, and the second is literalism. And to say equality, same competence, same salary, the right to decide who you want to be, autonomy, to act against domestic violence, to act against any kind of forced marriages. All this is part of the struggle. So this is why I do not accept when you essentialize Islam while taking one anecdote about a Muslim and saying this is Islam and this is the problem we have. Because we are struggling within the Muslim world to change this situation. If you don't want to listen to the people who are trying to change with a humble sense, it means that we are for the same rights, but we know that to change societies takes time.
If you think that was intense, prepare to dab your eyes by the time we get to Q&A. This exact question, the humble position on women's rights, is where things get genuinely uncomfortable to watch. Tariq's answer keeps circling around equality in principle, while somehow never landing on a single, plain, unqualified sentence saying the law should already reflect that today, not eventually, not after years of struggle. Circling a target that long usually means you're avoiding the bullseye, not aiming for it.
Where lies your humility is at the same time that you are asking me to reform this. It's to come with me in your own society here, when you know that in this society in Britain, the women don't get the same salary for the same work, don't get the same rights, and don't at the same time. In this society, 70% of the women who are beaten by men they know. This is happening in the West. So don't take your ideal equality for something which is for granted, and when you look at Muslims, you have to change with me your own world and be self-critical. This is humility. Come to me, come with me, and we will work together.
He's basically accusing Britain of its own domestic gender pay gap and abuse statistics, as if pointing at someone else's flaws somehow answers the original question. It doesn't. No matter how he looks at it, whataboutism dressed up as humility is still whataboutism, just with better vocabulary.
Once again on the fact that, again, Mr. Glass has said that you, ladies and gentlemen, in the room are propping up anti- or pro-dictator regimes, that you in this room are doing deals with Saudi Arabia. Ladies and gentlemen, the West may have made and has made grotesque errors in propping up dictators in the Middle East. but we also manage not to prop them up. We've also, if you like, we have the antidote to poisons within us. Can that be said of other societies to the same extent? And please note Mr. Dalrymple's use of the word we. It was we when it was people carrying out massacres in the West, in the past, your forebears. It was only we when it's us doing bad things. When is it we expressed by Mr. Dalrymple of pride of what the West has done? That he cannot bring himself to do, and I hope you note it, ladies and gentlemen. This is masochism, and it's being offered to you by a sadist.
The mention of masochism offered up by a sadist by Douglas is uncomfortably sharp, and it sticks precisely because it names something real. There's a strange asymmetry in a room applauding Western self-flagellation while conveniently sidestepping anyone else's failures. Selective guilt isn't humility. It's just guilt with a large PR budget.
All these other systems. I think the key one has to bear in mind is, for all that we have to be proud of the West, I believe it is in the arrogant and forceful association of the superiority of Western values that we have consistently undermined all that is most precious in our civilization.
William stood up because he's very close to the lectern, but I'm going to ask everybody else to stay seated so you get more talking time that way. Unless you actually want to.
I'm happy sitting.
Very good. Okay.
Mr. Dalrymple did, however, just make an allusion there. He talked about the West's virtues. He talked about it being rich and productive. He did not focus, for instance, or even mention the fact that it is also free. I think this matters, ladies and gentlemen. He was counting the amount of money you make, not the virtues of your life or the values of your systems or the rights that you enjoy. I'm quite loath in a way to mention Iraq, but somebody just did. This is usually the moment at which I start to lose the debate. But I would, since most of you voted anyway, it doesn't matter. The Iraq would indeed be a much better place if the parties of God were not killing our secular friends and allies there. And I think it's a grotesque thing to hold the West and Western values and liberty and freedom and democracy and the rule of law, blame them for religious fundamentalists blowing up our secular allies. And I hope you noticed that, ladies and gentlemen. And why we compare them with Muslim values? I agree with the lady. We could have focused on Buddhist values. We could have focused on any other types of values. The reason why it kept on coming back to it is, as you know, because this is the matter of our time. And it is not hard at the moment to notice the calls for the different type of societies that people want to create. And that there is.
You see, all through this time, Tariq had been stuck defending why he can't get into America, while simultaneously insisting the West owes the rest of the world more patience, more time, more benefit of the doubt. That's a genuinely hard position to hold with a straight face, asking for grace while explaining why he's personally been denied entry over associations he says are already resolved.
And I hope, ladies and gentlemen, when you vote for the right side tonight, you make this clear. There is a difference between the Western states, which practice their own values that we sometimes mistakenly call Western values, and yes, we should call them liberal values, and yes, we should call them universal values, but we identify them with the West because they came from the West, because they were nurtured in the West, and that they are hopefully, I hope you will agree, asserted by the West and believed in by the West. We are the people that can spread this. Thank you.
Okay. Tariq Ramadan, respond to that and anything else that you like.
Yes, I will start by responding to what you said and go along with my conclusion. You were asking, would it be possible to have this kind of a dialogue in an Islamic majority country? In many Islamic majority countries, it would be impossible, and mainly in the Arab Islamic countries, but don't reduce Islam to the Arab countries. It would be possible to have this kind of dialogue in Indonesia, in Senegal. There are Islamic countries, so don't essentialize. While I cannot have this dialogue in the United States of America today,
Consistency, not superiority, is a nice soundbite, genuinely elegant phrasing. But elegant phrasing isn't the same as an actual policy position, and by this point in the debate, elegant phrasing is starting to feel like the entire strategy. Reframe, redirect, reframe again, never quite land on the falsifiable claim everyone in that room is actually asking for.
Could we have this debate in a Muslim country? Yes, as Tariq Ramadan has said. In some of them you'd have to be very tentative, in others it wouldn't happen at all. I think it is entirely wrong that you're not allowed into the United States, Professor Ramadan. I think it's a huge mistake on their part. I'm quite willing to sign the petition that I am allowed to sign without any harassment to try and make sure that you get in to have the debate that you want, and I hope that they're consistent with their values. I think it's ridiculous. But you asked a question earlier. Incidentally, I'll take up Jeremy's point. I can see why it would be better to have a motion to say it would be we shouldn't be so reluctant to imply the superiority or to suggest the superiority of Western values. And I would have been very happy with that. I think that part of the problem we had was the negotiation of this motion, which I think the end where we came was the one that William Dalrymple wanted, which is why he attacked it so much. Tariq Ramadan, Professor Tariq says, in or out? Am I in or out? Tariq, you're in. I'm in. We're in partially because of the values in the...
Here's where David Aronovich's closing needle pulls everything into one single thread. David offering to literally sign a petition to get Tariq back into America is a small, almost throwaway moment, but it does more work than it looks like. It quietly reframes the entire evening. The West's flaws get argued about in open court, on camera, with dissent allowed to stand uncontested in the room. Nobody on the other side of this debate gets offered that same courtesy back home, and that gap, who gets to disagree openly and who doesn't, might be the actual unglamorous heart of the whole 2 hours. So here's what's actually worth answering to. If the strongest argument for universal values is that the society defending them keeps prosecuting its own failures in public, while the society being asked to adopt them keeps asking for more time before it'll do the same, is that really a debate between equals anymore, or is one side just quietly winning by default?